Good afternoon, those in the chamber and also those streaming in online. Today is our first council meeting for calendar year 25, and it's a special council meeting. And we're addressing a number of very important agenda items. Could I welcome and invite Councillor Aldridge to do the acknowledgement of country? Thank you.
Wodonga Council acknowledges Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the first peoples of the country. We acknowledge them as traditional owners and custodians across various lands. We pay our respect to their ancestors, elders, children and young people. We acknowledge the strength and resilience of all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and recognise their continuous connections to lands, waters and communities across the country.
Thank you, Councillor Aldridge. Agenda item 2 is apologies. No apologies. Agenda item 3 is Governance Pledge, and if I can invite Councillor Seymour to speak to that.
Wodonga councillors have committed to undertake the duties of the Office of Councillor in the best interests of the municipal community, abide by the Model Councillor Code of Conduct and uphold the standards of conduct set out in the Model Councillor Code of Conduct, and faithfully and impartially carry out and exercise the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in the Office of Councillor under the Local Government Act 2020 and any other act to the best of their skill and judgment.
Thank you, Councillor Seymour. Agenda item 4 is declaration by councillors of any conflict of interest. Are there any declarations of conflict? No? Thank you. Moving then on to reports for determination, agenda item 5.1 is the first agenda item, the Advocacy Policy. There is would someone like to move the motion as recommended or have an alternative motion?
I'd like to do an alternative motion, please.
Councillor Knight, thank you as the mover. Do we have a what would that alternative motion be, can I ask?
Can we defer this item for a workshop, please? So, Council would like to defer the item on the advocacy policy for workshopping and a future briefing.
Good. Did everyone hear that? Yep, great.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty, for seconding. Would you like to speak to that, Councillor Knight?
I just think we need a bit of time on this one. It's a good document, but we really need to work around it and make sure we cross the T's and dot the I's.
Good, thank you. Councillor Quilty, would you like to speak to it as the seconder?
Yes, but I will reserve my right to speak.
Okay, thank you. Given that, would any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Councillor Hall.
Yeah, I will support this motion put up by Councillor Knight. We, as a new council, haven't had a real chance to workshop this in any detail. It sort of just came. Originally, there was an urgency to have a special meeting for the hospital, and when the agenda came up, this was included. And I really think to be transparent, we really should go through it. And there's a couple of things in there that I think we need to look at, and also mentions like the 2050 community vision that hasn't been adopted. So, I think we're jumping the gun with that, and I think just we need to go through it. All councils need to have an opportunity to give their views and thoughts on the document, and so that's my reasons for supporting Councillor Knight's motion.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Any other councillors would like to speak to the motion? Councillor Cowan, thank you.
I think it's important that we recognise the importance of advocacy for council, for the staff, for the officers, and that it's a whole of organisation responsibility with different roles. And I think this paper is a very good starting point, and I'm looking forward to workshopping an advocacy document that we can all work together for our advocacy priorities.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan. Any other councillors? Councillor Quilty, I know you've reserved the right. Are you comfortable with me also speaking to this prior to you? Or?
Of course.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Quilty. To Councillor Cowan's point, advocacy, I think, is a really key lever for this council in terms of achieving some of the objectives that we have for our community. It's a very important one. But also note, this council's had some very successful advocacy over the years, whether it's the Wodonga Rail Bypass Project, whether it's the rolling stock for the rail, as just one of many, many examples. We've survived without a policy, but I think having some guardrails in time, subject to the consultation with councillors to get alignment on what those important guardrails are, is really, really important. So I too support Councillor Knight's motion. Councillor Quilty?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I would like to once again clarify that Council does have advocacy priorities. We have a document that was put together in 2023 and it is currently on the Council website. It is a very good document. It contains several items that have already been achieved. But those are council advocacy priorities. We did not as such have the advocacy policy, which basically describes the roles of mayor and deputy and CEO and staff and councillors in advocacy, in representing the council in advocacy situations, and also how we deal with the advocacy priority items that we have agreed on, and the so-called out of the box, which is the technical term in 5.6 of this policy, items that might arise. And yes, basically this document is not meant to say what we're going to advocate for, but rather how we're going to do it. And it is not something we except for the current year or the current term. This policy, if accepted, will be enduring and reviewed as often as it needs to be, but it is something that will possibly stay. I do support putting it off until the possibility to workshop it. It was put together in a bit of a hurry, and I would like to thank our CEO and staff who did put it together for us in such a hurry after listening to our advocacy sentiment and priorities during several briefings. However, it is a serious document, and there are a few things in it that need to be further worked on and clarified. Some of these were already discussed during the briefings, but not enough. We might consider even whether we end up needing a policy once we have worked through the policy and our advocacy priorities. But for the time, I'm very much supportive of putting it off and having a proper long workshop. But like I said, many thanks to the staff for giving us this first draft that we can work with.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. If there's nothing else, if I could put the motion for a vote as a right of reply.
I'm happy to.
You're happy? Thank you, Councillor Knight. Given that, if I could put the motion to a vote, all those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you. And thank you, Councillor Knight, for the alternative motion. Moving on to agenda item 5.2, advocacy priorities update. Thank you again, our CEO, for putting this together. We have a motion as recommended, or would someone like, sorry, we have a recommendation there. Would someone like to move that or an alternative motion?
I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you, Councillor Knight. Would you like to read that out? Yeah.
I'd like to move a motion that the advocacy plan priorities be adopted, but that we limit them to 4 of the priorities, being 1, the new site hospital, 2, regional development, 3, housing, and 4, community safety. I believe that, do I leave that there and then talk to it later, don't I? Sorry.
We'll talk to it later. Just mind repeating them.
New site, new hospital.
Yep.
2, regional development.
Yes.
3, housing, and 4, community safety.
Okay, is there a seconder to that motion?
I'll second this motion. Also, Mr. Mayor, I would like to propose suspending standing orders so we can have a debate
Excellent.
out of order.
Good. Thank you very much. So those in favour of suspending standing orders? That's unanimous, thank you. Standing orders suspended. Councillor Quilty as the seconder, I beg your pardon. As the mover, Councillor Knight, would you like to speak to me?
I just believe that we've got on the list, I think there's 18 down to 16 on our priorities. I believe a lot of them cross over to each other in a lot of different ways. The new site, new hospital, I think that's our number one priority, and it has been for quite a while. Our community's been calling out for it. It's disappointing with some of the stuff we've heard in the last few days, but we'll deal with that. Regional development, I think, covers an awful lot of the scope where we talk about ports and freight, economic growth, transport infrastructure and road safety, even cross-border matters. That all develops our region, so I feel it all feels under that heading as well.
Yes.
There's a few others that will fit under that, even sports, kindergarten, school education. Housing, as every area is experiencing, we don't have enough. We need to hit every avenue we can. No pun intended on that one, sorry. In regards to getting help to build infrastructure and get the housing for our people in our area, and also part of our regional development. The community safety is also very high on my list. We've had a lot of stuff go on recently in areas, and I believe that our community expects us to put them at the top of our list as far as safety goes. So I think that also covers things like road safety and some of the other areas that we've been talking about in briefings as well.
Thank you, Councillor Knight. Councillor Quilty as the seconder, would you like to speak to your seconder?
Yes, thank you. I have already mentioned our advocacy document from 2023 that's currently on our website. This is probably more relevant to discussion in this item, what it is we are actually going to advocate. And I think that all the 18 items, or 16, how many of them? Anyway, all the 18 items listed in the recommendation that was put in the report by staff are incredibly important. A lot of them are already in 2023 document. However, I have supported and seconded Councillor Knight's proposition, because I would like us to focus for the moment on the advocacy that is more the domain of federal government, given the hopefully soon upcoming federal election. A lot of the topics that are listed here are the state government domain, and I believe that we still have time. We should advocate for many of them, but we still have time to work through the details of this advocacy, our approach, and expand or reduce that list. I think our advocacy at the moment for this year should be short, sharp, to the point. It shouldn't be a list of items that is too long to read and that nobody can finish. I partially agree with the items that Councillor Knight proposed, because I believe some of them still cross over into the state domain, but I have suspended standing orders, so I invite other councillors to offer their opinion on what they would like to keep and why. I would like to also draw everybody's attention to page 16 of 34 of today's agenda, where we have the details of each advocacy item. For example, for housing, we have trunk infrastructure, community hubs, alternative housing options, activating of school open spaces after hours. So they are included but not limited to the details of each of advocacy item. Yeah. So
Yes. Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Any other councillors would like to speak to the motion? Councillor Aldridge.
Yeah, I would just like to say that while I appreciate Councillor Knight's making the amendment to the motion, my concern is that the four options you've outlaid do not necessarily reflect the view of the council, and I feel like that is something that we would potentially need to discuss as a group further, perhaps outside of a council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Aldridge. Any other comments?
sorry.
Sorry.
We're allowed to, yes.
Yeah.
Look, yeah, I'm in two minds about it too. I'm still happy to go with the advocacy plan that we've got on their website because it does cover a lot of issues, and I understand the four have been sort of highlighted because we're coming into a federal election, and they're probably things that would fit into the federal election advocacy realm. But I don't want to, shortchange ourselves. And the fact is, we can advocate for all the things that we've got on the council website. So I sort of wondered why we actually had this come up in the first place, because it's already covered in the website. I mean, it does need updating, like Councillor Quilty has mentioned before, and I know that. But the actual website plan is detailed. It has funding costs. They could be a little bit out now that it's, a little bit that was done a little while ago. But it's very explanatory, and it's sort of I think it's a good document to go forward with, and I don't see we really need, other than maybe just to update it with some of the things once we've discussed with councillors what we want to add to it. I don't see the need to really change it. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Cowan?
Look, it wouldn't escape anyone's attention that we're heading into a federal government election, and I think that's part of the impetus that drives me to want to identify some of the key advocacy priorities, and I'm probably of the opinion that we need to keep that list quite sharp. So I'm in favour of identifying 4 priorities. I think we're in that interesting stage of this new council where we're developing a council plan. We're also refreshing and developing new strategies. We've got almost a blank sheet to some extent, notwithstanding those things that we've really focused on so far, and that we should pay respect to that process of engaging our community, engaging our stakeholders, and then coming up with an advocacy list that falls out of that process. So I think the timing is very ripe for identifying 4 key priorities now, and so I support the recommendation by Councillor Knight, and I think that we still have scope to develop our 25-26 advocacy plan, which will be informed by the processes that we're going through now.
Can I just ask for clarification on the comment you just made? Are you happy to proceed based on the 4 items that he listed, or do you think that it would be better discussed in a briefing to decide as a collective group what 4 we finalise?
I think thank you, Councillor Aldridge. I actually accepted the rationale that Councillor Knight put forward, in that there are a number of subheadings that fall under these, particularly regional development, which I think you could argue includes transport infrastructure, ports and freights, cross-border matters. But I think, we do need to be tailoring this to the federal government portfolios and staying within that realm for now, given that we are hoping to advocate for those during the federal election.
Can I just ask, if we were to go with Councillor Knight's proposal, we've got the agenda in front of us, and so we've got the list of 18, and then we've got examples the headings and what that entails. As was suggested, some of that could be put into one rather than some of the logic, regional development.
Yeah.
So that makes it a bit clunky because we're just saying before that you've put in, but we don't know what's in it. So what are you suggesting that it goes back and we?
Well, I'm suggesting that there's a lot of that stuff. So for me, being a layman and new to council and all the nuances involved, is that regional development, to me, if we build a stadium, for an example, here in Wodonga, that would develop the region. So therefore, if we go down to sport, which is down number 6, passive and active, enabling precinct master plans, Wodonga Sport and Leisure Centre, refurbishment of sports complex stage 2. All those things are part of developing your region. If you build a hydrogen highway, you're going to develop your region, you're bringing workforce in. So for me, my rationale behind these 4 was because I could sum them up into one heading and then have subheadings under it. By no means, I'm and I'll make this plain, I am happy to amend those, and I'm happy to amend the motion to include that it's not limited to these 4, but these are the 4 high priority ones.
Yeah, that was what I was saying, because in the if you go by the agenda, then we're sort of listed to what's in the agenda, and so maybe you need something around the wording that we relook at how it's defined.
But then there's the alternative motion as well, where it does break it down into very high priority, and priority for raising relevant.
That's not in the agenda.
It's not in the agenda.
It's not in the agenda.
Been flagged as an
So
alternate.
no, that people
It's been
don't.
flagged as an alternate. Okay.
So that's what my concern was, because people are seeing, our community sees the what is it, the sub-headlines or whatever, the description of each one item, but Councillor Knight was suggesting we include other things into those.
4 main headings.
Yeah, and so
break
maybe
them
that
down to
needs
those.
to be worked on before it gets
Quite possibly, yes.
the descriptions of those headlines.
Councillor Aldridge.
Are we able to speak to the alternative motion that was emailed through this afternoon, or given because it's not in the
No.
agenda, we can't discuss it?
We can discuss that. Given we've suspended standing orders, I would have thought we could discuss the alternative motion.
Yeah, I would just saying that we were emailed out a survey to choose our preferences on what our priorities are, and my assumption is, and the CEO will be able to clarify, that the very high priority that were listed in the alternative motion is what came back, the feedback that came back from council, which is slightly different to what Councillor Knight has put forward. So as council, I think maybe we need to discuss this alternate motion as an option as well.
All I'm saying is that
It's not fully.
what Councillor Knight's put up, and he was suggesting we put other items into each of those.
And I would be happy to support that, but I feel like the 4 items that you've listed is something that we would need to discuss at a briefing and agree on. Because given what we've surveyed on is different to what you've come back with.
If I can make a suggestion here, right? So what's really clear is that the top 3 priorities, if hypothetically the motion was to adopt a priority list of the first 3 options, because what you've done, Councillor Knight, is
Basically
recommend a list which doesn't necessarily reflect the top 4 there. I understand your reasoning for that.
Sorry to interrupt and stuff like that, but and going on off our survey, which 4 and 5 were actually interchangeable. It had the same number of councillors supported it, so there was actually nothing
between them.
And for viewers' sake, so the list that we received for the top 4 was New Site Hospital, Regional Development and Housing, which was the same 3 as I had, and then 4 was Local Government Sustainability. And then we came into that was a very high priority list, and then we went into the high priority list, which was community safety.
Yeah.
And that was my rationale behind that, is that I believe that the community safety comes before that, even though it's of equal importance.
So given that they're ranked equally in that survey, what about the possibility of narrowing it down to 5? The first 5 there that ranked highest, and they become the new priorities.
I'm happy to amend the motion.
When we suspend, reinstate standing orders, we could perhaps seek a motion to amend the motion.
Yeah.
Sorry, Councillor Quilting and Councillor Cowan. Sorry.
Thank you. Just clarifying a few things. In the original recommendation, the advocacy plan was called Priority Projects for Advocacy 2025. So for this calendar year, and presumably particularly targeted to the upcoming federal election. Councillor Knight, did you want to keep that line? Priority Projects for Advocacy 2025?
I believe that we should be advocating on what's relevant at the time, and all advocacy is relevant to what's happening at the time. So we can't plan what's going to happen in June, July. This should be a living document that we can alter and change at a meeting, add to and take off as things are achieved or as things become available. I just think that these four that I've listed, and the 5th one would be the governance, would be the most, rather than spreading ourselves across 18 or spreading our resources across 18, we could concentrate on those 5, and that's not taking them away from the advocacy. If that option became available, then they could move up in the priority list. That's how I've envisioned it. How I put that into the words for the motion is entirely out of my realm.
That's fine. Could you please once again say what the 4 original ones were? New Site Hospital?
Oh, sorry, from the email?
No, from your...
From mine. So it was New Site Hospital, regional development, which I felt encased just about everything, improving, and housing and community safety. Housing
and community safety.
Yes.
Okay. May I just reiterate my sentiment and reiterate again that in my opinion we should be focusing on the domain of the federal government given the upcoming federal election, and I feel that the 4 or 5 or whatever options, I very much agree with what our CEO calls the Vegemite approach, saying how thinly or thickly we spread it. I suggest we don't spread it too thinly at the moment and stay really focused on our advocacy that's directed to federal government. I think that most, if not all, of the items on this list are very important. Community safety is incredibly important. However, most of it, if not all, probably most of it is really the domain of the state government. And I think it should definitely be on our advocacy. But my question is, do we add it to our list now, or do we make a short, sharp list that we give to all our federal candidates and then sit down and work on our advocacy going forward and target state election more? So that's I'm not saying this is what we should do, but this is my suggestion that everybody considers. Please.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Councillor Cowan, you were indicating you wanted to speak.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I tend to agree with you, Councillor, because I feel that we're taking advantage of federal government election coming up, that we should stay focused on small number of advocacy items and maximise the opportunity for us to have some impact in that respect. And that we give respect to the community input coming forward through our council plan and strategies engagement, with the view of looking at another advocacy plan for 25-26. So I would be very much of the intent of making this a short-term document.
With a focus.
With a very, very sharp focus of even 3 potentially.
Just based on this discussion, I'd love to hear from councillors, if we were to target this at the federal government level, what they would consider, for anyone who wants to talk to it, what they would consider the priorities to be now.
Would someone like to kick off? I'm happy to, but Councillor Cowan? Yes.
Sure. Well, yes, look, I think that the top 3 items are the new hospital, regional development and housing. I think they fall very, very succinctly in the remit and priorities of federal government, and recognising that community safety is also typically a state issue. So those top 3 would be my priorities.
Councillor Corty?
I agree with Councillor Cowan's proposition. I would propose adding local government sustainability to this list. It is in the domain probably of both federal and state level of government, but it falls very much, unfortunately, there is no detailed explanation in the report of what it is. In my view, it is the motion, the up and down motion of taxes collected within our municipality or within the state of which our municipality is a part, and travelling up and down through our levels of government. Also, any cost shifting that could exist in the in between levels of government, I think it would be well placed on this list. Perhaps it's perhaps not as acute as our first 3 priorities, but long term and very much within the concern of federal government, I would keep it.
So a proposal there to limit it to 4, the top 4 that's in the alternative motion: new site hospital, regional development, housing, local government sustainability, which does differ from Councillor Knight's original proposal that had substituted local government sustainability for community safety. Are there any more comments? Councillor Hall?
I just look, the thing that gets me with this, and I don't have an issue with supporting 3 or 4 or maybe 5, but we're going back, you've got the list here. This is the document, this is the agenda, this isn't what we got, this is what's out in the community. And then it comes with an explanation on each item, 1 to 18. So are we, as Councillor Knight was suggesting, that, you know, we might double up on, already we've got the hospital, but then they've got number 2, surrounding infrastructure. Should that be all one?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like the descriptions aren't going to are problematic. And we need to, because this is the what we're adopting. These, I just want it, that needs to be clarified. That's the problem.
Yeah, I agree.
CEO, did you want to respond to that?
Sorry, I was trying to work out some logistic process.
Oh, right, okay.
Discussion was happening.
But I think, Councillor Hall, to your question, there's I would have thought there'd definitely be opportunity to consolidate some of these other ones under these 4 headings. For example, logic, ports and freight would definitely sit under the remit of regional
and that's what
development.
I've been trying to, because this is what has gone out into the community. This is the agenda. It's not what we're dealing with behind, you know.
I'll just point out, they're not definitions, they're projects. So it says actually projects include. So they're not actually a definition of what those headings are. So you could define those headings however we wanted to. And that's what I was trying to get. I don't know how to express it into the right words, and unfortunately I ran out of time this afternoon.
Well, we could change number 2, the recommendation that you put the numbers that you support, like what you, and then have the CEO authorised to finalise the format and
the structure to previous plans. Yeah.
CEO.
That was going to be my exact comment, Councillor Hall, in that if you authorise the CEO to go away under the existing format and structure that up and circulate it around councillors, make sure that it's got the right inclusions there and finalised. Just noting, I suppose, that this is going to be a rapid process because we're expecting the federal election to be called soon. And we'll need to go about that fairly quickly. Can I also note at the same time, you might you might want to consider, do you just leave the existing policy as it stands and emphasise
Priorities as it
this,
stands, but emphasise the top four.
emphasise those for the purpose of this federal election?
But then remove the options that have already been achieved? Because isn't there things on that
There
document
is.
that have been ticked off already?
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
But they're individually put on there, so I wouldn't think it would be hard to just delete
Take it
it.
off
Yeah.
at the discretion of the CEO.
Well, the
for him
CEO would know
to
what.
authorise the CEO to do that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, are there any other comments? Does any other councillor want to speak to this before we reinstate standing orders? And I'm sensing there's an appetite for an amendment to the original motion.
Just
Councillor Quilty, then Councillor Cowan.
Thank you. Just clarifying, are we proposing to let any candidates know in our advocacy that our focus is on the 4 items and as a continuation of those, we have the documents that was made in 2023 that's on our website.
I think,
Do I understand correctly, or what,
yeah.
what is it?
So I would have thought, as per previous federal election cycles, council's invited all candidates as an opportunity to hear council's priorities, and that would be part of that process, where council can identify those key priorities, whichever they are determined as a result of this vote. Did I miss part of that question? I think I might have.
No, my question is really what is the motion going to be?
Oh, right. Yeah, okay.
Would you like me to read it? I think there's going to be an
Maybe
amendment.
after Councillor Cowan has
Yeah,
spoken.
yeah.
Thank you. Yes, because I would like to clarify and reiterate my consideration that this is short-term, focused on the federal election with the view to looking at potentially rewriting our advocacy position paper in the 25-26 for 25-26.
Or someone's going to need to write a motion.
I'm working on it.
So what I've
things
written,
to add.
So what I've written down, is to for the amendment that I'm thinking of is one priority for or priorities for advocacy 2025. So I've taken out the word projects to allow for more scope. 1, the new site hospital. 2, regional development. 3, housing. 4, community safety, and 5, local government sustainability. So I've put the 5. I'll be putting the 5 back in there. The advocacy plan to be a living document with the ability to add and remove subject to council approval. CO to be, that could be reworded if someone would like to make a suggestion.
I say authorise the CEO to finalise the format to a similar
And that's the last part of it,
to
yeah.
previous plans.
Yeah.
But to ensure we maintain the continuity.
So the reason I put in the to be a living document with the ability to add and remove, but as Councillor Cowan said, we could just make it for the 2025 year.
Or even
Or
it's
even just for the
after
federal election, if we
Yeah.
wanted to make it just for the federal election and readdress it after the federal election.
Is that clear? I know it's different to what was discussed about narrowing it down to 3 or 4, but Councillor Knight's suggesting that, and I also know the CEO wants to comment. So, Councillor Quilty, did you have a question or a comment before the CEO?
A proposition, but I'll make it after the service.
Councillor Knight, can I just caution against the living document?
Okay.
Because we need a resolution, we need a firm way to go and advocate to the government. Councillor Cowan has suggested this is short term, given you've only just been elected, you're working through this, and the vision document, as Councillor Hall has mentioned, you're developing your council plan, and after the election, federal election, you'll revamp this and you'll have a bit more scope and we'll draft a whole new document. But because this is such short term, I suggest remove your bit around living document, because I've got to go away and develop this document, and if it's then going to chop and change, and council resolutions, you only meet once a month, it's just not practical for this short period of time. So, but I do like the addition of number 3 in there. That gives me some flexibility to prepare, put it in front of councillors, you'll all be comfortable with it before we...
So if I changed it, sorry, I'll refer.
Councillor Quilty, keep forgetting that. Priorities for Advocacy 2025 federal election would be the title of the.
Yes.
Does that make sense then, that we can then re-adopt any advocacy after the federal election? That work for people?
I think it's clearer. I think there's still a little bit of uncertainty around the 5 versus 4. Councillor Quilty, did you want to? I know that you wanted to make a comment.
I'm still of the opinion that we need to focus on 3 or 4, and I quite like the proposition that Councillor Cowan made with the 3 ones, with the addition of local government sustainability. I'm still a little bit unclear, and I do like the sentiment of keeping our 2023 document up there and referring the candidates to it for other options. But I'm still unclear what the motion is going to be. So I would like to foreshadow, if once we formulated this motion, if it doesn't get up, I would like to foreshadow another motion which focuses on 4 points of advocacy.
So
just to make it short.
So can I just make a suggestion here that in terms of a motion alternative to Councillor Knight's, the council maintains the existing advocacy priorities that exist on the website from 2023 and update the focus on 4 priorities, which are the top 4: the new site, new hospital, regional development, housing and local government sustainability, and that the CEO be authorised to finalise the format of the advocacy plan. That's what I might be foreshadowing, depending on the outcome of vote on the motion that Councillor Knight's put. Councillor Aldridge?
Can I just add to your potential future motion, Mr. Mayor, that we need to make sure that anything that has already been achieved is removed from the existing document.
Good. Councillor Quilty?
Sorry. I also think it's important that we add somewhere the bit where we're going to revisit after the federal election. We're going to revisit our advocacy priorities and target them towards state election momentum.
Good. Okay, if there is no other councillor comment, could I have someone move that we reinstate standing orders? Thank you.
Reinstate.
Councillor Aldridge, all those in favour of reinstating? That's unanimous. Councillor Knight, I'm now looking at you.
I'm not sure on how this operates, but I would like to make an amendment to my motion. How do I do
Can
that?
a mover make an amendment to a motion? I'm not sure that.
So you can seek your seconder's approval. So you go through and say, I'd like the motion to be this, and the seconder agrees with it. Then you can continue through the process. While I'm talking about process, I might also say that if there's an amendment, a mover and seconder of the original motion can't move an amendment. So, Councillor Quilty, your suggestion, you won't be able to foreshadow anything else until this goes through its process.
So if I don't agree to amending the original motion as a seconder, can we vote on it and then Councillor Knight comes up with a... Yeah, let's do that.
Yes. Okay, good. So, Councillor Knight, it's with you.
It's without the support of the seconder, it's the original motion. I can't make.
Which was what?
The original motion might.
You can withdraw it, and we can put a.
I'll withdraw the motion just because I can't remember what we discussed.
Okay.
I've crossed off that much stuff on my page.
Could I have a?
The seconder has to agree to that as well.
I agree.
Yeah.
Withdrawing the original motion.
Thank you, Councillor Cooley, for withdrawing the seconder of that original motion. Would a council like to propose an alternative motion?
We could go with your foreshadow, Councillor.
I'm happy.
No. Let's go with what we came up with
In
the suspended standing orders and see how it goes.
So I'd
Test the
like
floor.
to move a motion again.
yes. Could you read that out?
Yeah, a priority for Advocacy 2025 federal election, the 4 advocacy projects of new site hospital, regional development, housing and local government and sustainability. And that the CEO to be authorised to finalise the format of the advisory plan under a similar structure to previous, whilst maintaining the 2023 advocacy priorities.
So, just before I ask for a second, was that projects or priorities?
Priorities, sorry, I did say projects, but
Yeah, thank
priorities
you.
is what I meant, sorry.
We'll revisit.
Yeah, I hadn't got to, but yeah, and that we will revisit this after the federal election.
Great.
To be a date to be confirmed.
Could I have a seconder to that?
Yeah, I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Would any councillors like to now speak to that?
I think I've covered it enough.
I just want to say that's great, and I think we've come to an awesome resolution. Well done, team.
Okay, Councillor Cowan.
Yes, I think I would like to endorse the local government sustainability as within the top four of our priorities, in that we are, while it's not specifically for Wodonga, we're joining the voices of so many other councils in calling for greater federal government assistance in this area, and I think that we can leverage with those other councils.
Great. Any other comments? Would you like Councillor Knight write a reply to any of those
No,
comments?
I'm happy to go straight to the vote. I feel like
Great.
I've stayed my welcome.
Local government sustainability, it's out.
No,
it's in.
Community safety was removed,
So just to be clear, CEO.
but it's in 2023's document.
New site, new hospital, regional development, housing and local government sustainability is the top four priorities for advocacy for the 2025 federal election period.
Yes.
Can I now, given there's no more comments from councillors, can I put that to a vote? All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much, councillors. That was heavy duty.
Thank you.
Councillors, I'm going to now bring your attention to item 5.3, which is the Albury Wodonga Hospital update. We have an officer recommendation there. The CEO has also flagged an alternative motion for consideration in the context of the meeting had with the Minister last night with the Mayor of Wodonga and the Mayor of Albury. Would someone like to move a motion as recommended or an alternative?
I'm happy to move the motion.
As recommended.
As recommended or the alternate, which basically notes.
No, it's on our actual options. Option 1 is recommended. Council noted to proceed to get them multiple councils.
This is on the email.
So
Yeah.
You're on the email.
the addition to the officer recommended recommendation is item 5, which says note the discussion with Minister Thomas, and that Wodonga Council continues the existing advocacy path for a new site hospital. New site, new hospital.
Sorry, I'm just reading. I think somebody else better.
Thank you. I'd
Can-
like to move the motion.
thank
Thank you. Would you like me to read the motion?
Yes, please,
Your turn.
just for clarity.
So the motion that I'm moving is council note the continued advocacy work across multiple councils in the northeast of Victoria and southeast of New South Wales for a new site, new hospital. Council note the Victorian Minister for Health at the time of publishing this report had requested a meeting with Albury City and Wodonga City Councils about the new site, new hospital for Albury Wodonga Regional Community. Point 3, Council confirmed that Wodonga Council staff should continue to provide support in the advocacy program within capacity and capability and supplement this with external support within existing budget provisions. And point 4, further reports on the matter be submitted to future council meetings and council continue to provide regular updates to the community. And point 5, which is the new addition to this motion, is that we note the discussion with Minister Thomas and that Wodonga Council continue the existing advocacy path for a new site, new hospital.
And councillors have been updated on the outcomes of that meeting, but we need a seconder for that motion. Councillor Knight. Any council comments? Would anyone like to speak to this motion?
Councillor Cowan, as a mover.
Yep.
Thank you. I think that we're all in fierce agreement that advocacy for a new hospital on a new site for Albury Wodonga and our region is our number one priority. We note that the mayors of Albury and Wodonga were invited to a meeting with the Minister last night, and that meeting proved to be less than fruitful in moving this discussion forward. And that is that we seek to pause the development as it currently exists and revisit the decision to build a new hospital. So the recommendation is there for us to continue our advocacy and stay on the path that we have continued, and to support that advocacy for a new site, new hospital. I think most of us would share my feelings about the disappointment that arises from the meeting that was held last night and that we attended. The Mayor of Wodonga Council certainly attended with goodwill and good faith that the discussion would lead to a different outcome potentially. And I think we need to continue that discussion, and that's what's recommended in this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan. Councillor Knight is the seconder.
Yeah, I'd like, this is a high priority for our community. It's been ongoing for quite a while now. We all know the predicament of the government, and we know that they'd rather see a train do loops in the city than after regional people's health, and it's a bit disappointing to see that from our state government, quite honestly. So, yeah, I'm a big believer we keep going.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Quilty, then Councillor Hall.
Look, I agree with the motion proposed. I believe that we should continue with our advocacy as planned, notwithstanding and possibly especially given the outcomes of yesterday's meeting. I would also like to acknowledge and thank Mayor and Deputy Mayor for their attempts to secure the meeting with the Minister in person, and their willingness to go as far and to wherever, as far as Mildura or any other end of the constituency where the Minister could be travelling. Unfortunately, as we know, their attempts were fruitless, and the meeting had to be carried on online. But thank you for your commitment, and thank you for the update you have provided. Other than that, I'm happy to support the motion.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Any other councillors? Councillor Hall, then Councillor Seymour, and then Holdridge.
Yeah, I'm not going. So I support the alternative motion for that's been put up by Councillor Cowan. Look, I think the community we have worked so hard, and to be treated like we are by our state government, it's just it's appalling. We're treated like second-rate citizens of the state, and I think people have had enough of it. Our health is one of the most important things, that I think our community want us to stand for. And if our state government ministers cannot even meet us, our mayors and our CEO in face to face, I just think it's just a kick in the guts to our community and to our region of catchment of 300,000 people. We've got to keep advocating. And it's expected of our community, would expect us to do it. It's the right thing to do, and we will continue doing it.
Beautiful. Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Seymour, then Aldridge.
Well, it's probably all been said now, but I also want to go on record just to thank the Mayor and Deputy Mayor for the continued push and advocacy of our community for this really important project, and agree with Councillor Hall to be ignored or, ignored is a nice word, is really poor form. So I will also be supporting the motion to continue.
Thank you, Councillor Seymour. Councillor Aldridge.
Echoing what's already been said, but just to add, there's overwhelming community sentiment that council do need to remain strong on this advocacy because our region does deserve better. So I will be supporting this alternative motion.
Thank you, Councillor Aldridge. And as Mayor, I'd just like to thank all councillors for the support in this advocacy, which is clearly the number one issue in our community, and all 7 of us stood on a platform for advocating for a new hospital and a new site. We need to stay true to that, representing our community. I think the inequity that's going on in terms of funding of Albury Wodonga Health versus our regional peers is extraordinary. I think some of the assumptions that the minister's relying on to give both New South Wales and Victorian Health comfort around the 558 million funding being suitable for meeting not just our current needs but our future needs is extraordinarily precarious. And we have 206 doctors that have signed a letter saying this 558 million is not going to meet not only future needs but our current needs. I think it's really, really compelling. I also want to thank our local government neighbours, the 13 councils that have signed up to continue the advocacy for a new hospital and a new site. And I also want to acknowledge the staff of Albury Wodonga Health that, like our community, are also very significant advocates for a new hospital and new site, working in very challenging circumstances that will only be exacerbated if the redevelopment of the Albury campus hospital continues. So I too am in support of this alternative motion. Thank you. If there are no other comments from councillors, I'm going to put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you very, very much. Urgent business, there is none, I understand, which now leads us to confidential business. The recommendation is that the meeting be closed to members of the public in order to consider matters pursuant to section 3.1 of the Local Government Act 2020, and that the meeting be adjourned for 2 minutes to allow the public to leave. Could I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Knight. Seconder, Councillor Cowan. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Kevin and Philip, and sorry I don't know That was Knight and Seymour, sorry. 9.2 is the adopt the in-camera recommendations. Councillor Aldridge, do you mind rereading those?
I'm just opening up the document, Mr. Mayor.
We're not like, we are live streaming, so you
Yeah,
can
which
only
one?
do the second part.
Which
A
one?
public recommendation.
Public recommendation.
Oh, okay, yeah, back in that closed council.
Yeah.
And you have to remember
Gosh,
what you
I'm
said.
gonna have to remember what I
You're
said. Have you written it? Okay.
Set of final is draft.
Okay, so the motion is that the council authorises the chief executive officer to negotiate draft option deeds to purchase land parcels previously identified as the preferred location for a new hospital on a new site under specific terms specified in the report, and the chief executive officer provide update reports to the council on the progress of any land sale facilitation processes and provide a draft deed for determination of the council.
Good, thank you. Have a seconder for that. Thank you, Councillor Seymour. Any questions or comments on that? No. If I could put it to a motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. That's 9.2 concluded. 9.3, there's no public release of information. If I could declare the meeting closed under 9.4, 7:43. Thank you. Thank you, councillors, for